Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the station or the host. Always consult with your primary care physician on any medical issues, your attorney for any legal issues, and since I have a business person on, please consult your personal accountant, financial planner for any financial questions that is for your own personal use. With me today, I am so excited. I get excited about every guest. With me today is Reiner Lomb. He is CEO of Boomerang Coach, LLC. He is an executive coach. He is an author and a writer. Reiner has extensive international and cross-industry experiences. He is a global business leader and successful entrepreneur. Reiner Lomb's first book is The Boomerang Approach. I highly recommend you looking that up on Amazon. But his newest book, the book we're going to discuss today, is Aspire, 7 Essential Emotions for Leading Positive Change, no matter where you are. And that sounds really interesting. I want to welcome Reiner Lomb to Chatting with Betsy.
Hi, Betsy. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Oh, thank you, and it's a pleasure to have you on. I love the name of your book, Aspire. How did you come up with the title of your book? I always like to know that because I'm nosy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, the title of the book came very late in the process after I had finished writing the book. And the basic idea of the book is it's for people, it's to mobilize and empower people to create or lead the change they aspire to. And the book itself is of 7 essential emotions that help you to do that, to drive the right behavior. But aspire actually is also an emotion. And so if you wish, it is the 8th emotion. It's the basic foundation of the book is that it is for people that aspire to create positive change, no matter where they are.
That's great. So this book isn't necessarily just for people who are in business. Anyone can benefit from reading this book.
Yeah, that's the target is really for people, anybody that is dissatisfied with the status quo in their life. This could be in their family, could be in their community, it could be in a startup, small company, in a nonprofit or for-profit, could be in large corporations, or it could be at the political level. If people are aspiring political leaders, the people that want to run for office or serve the greater good, for anybody that wants to create positive change, no matter where they are.
I like that. I have to be honest, Reiner, with you, my audience. I'm not a connoisseur in the business world. I worked as a nurse, but I can say that having a good leader, a great mentor in a job, no matter if it's out in the business world or nursing or you're a teacher, it's so important for that head person, that leader, to set the tone, I believe, for what they want from their employees and the company. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. The leader makes a big difference. A lot of studies have been done how important the leader is for the well-being of the people. They are often they are not called leaders, right? They're called managers or people leaders and so on. But in principle, people, you don't have to be necessarily in a formal leadership role to be considered a leader or to be a leader. That creates change. I experienced that very often throughout my career, especially in the early part of career when I didn't have a formal leadership role yet, and then later I had more formal leader and executive leadership roles and so on. But what you said is absolutely true. People crave for good leadership, for people that make them feel safe, that make them, bring the best out of them, that they can trust. And I assume we will talk a lot more about those qualities. So I 100% agree with you. And you talked about, it sounded a little bit you're downplaying your role as a nurse. That is great leadership there, right? You're constantly in an environment where change is going to happen, very often life and death situations, where great leadership is required because you're faced with a situation where people are suffering, and you want to help them to feel better and maybe save their life in many cases.
Yes, I had a pastor, and he would always say, everything rises and falls on leadership. I still remember that. And I believe it's true. So what are the 7 essential emotions for leading a positive change?
I'd like to go into that, but I'd like to, first of all, so that people understand why emotions are important for leadership, to talk a little bit about the basic premises of the book, the basic premise.
Sure.
And because that lays the foundation, so people have the context. So the basic premise is that anybody, any of your listeners, and no matter if you're a nurse or if you're a doctor, if you are whatever role you have, administrator, no matter where you are in society, in your community, in your family, in a large corporation, in a small nonprofit, and so on, you can create change. If you're dissatisfied with something that you deeply care about and you can envision a better future, like a change, you can create that change. And in order to create that change, you need to influence. It requires you to influence the behavior of others, starting with your own behavior first. Okay, so that's really, it's a basic definition of leadership, right? Leading through influence, and influencing the change of behavior in others, starting with your own behavior. And the third premise is basically emotions are a very strong driver of our behaviors. There's no action or behavior or decisions we make that is not affected by our emotions. And very often we are in a mixture of emotions, but there's some that are more dominating and others that are more in the background. But emotions are very strong drivers of our behaviors. Emotional psychology, neuroscience, and so on has proven that. And you can learn, that's relatively new knowledge, that you can learn to shift your emotions. You can learn to become aware of your emotions. You can determine, is that beneficial? Does it help to drive the behavior that I want to show right now as a leader, that I need right now? So, for example, if you want to mobilize people to take action, right, are you in the emotional state to do that? You need to inspire people. That's an example. That is one of the 7 emotions. Am I inspirational right now? Do I inspire the other person? Does the other person feel inspiration? If not, you're probably not going to mobilize the other person in a sustained and in a deeper way. So you can learn that. You can learn the emotions that allow you to lead change by influencing others towards a vision that you have or that you collectively have as a team, as a group, or as a family, or as a community. So that's the basic.
That is wonderful, Reiner, and it's so true, because people do look up to, if you want to call them mentors, managers at work, and they set. To me, it sets the tone. If you are in a management position and one of your team members, if you want to call them team members, coworkers, comes to you with a problem because they think they could trust you, and then that person who's in leadership goes blabbing it all over, that is not being a good leadership. That's not showing trust. That's not cultivating a safe environment of trust.
Yes,
so, leaders, managers, management, really, I hope they all buy your book. I do, because this is so important in the workplace, Reiner. And I have experienced bullying in a workplace environment. And I think if people in management were to read your book, I think it would really change environments, the work environments all over. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I had to say that.
No, but it's wonderful that you said that, Betsy. It is so true, and that's why I wrote the book. Actually, I have over 50 years of 3 different major careers. Like large part in the first part, I was heavily in technology and in the whole computer science evolution and revolution of the world we live in today. And then I have a long career in starting businesses, software business primarily, but also other businesses globally, and leading and influencing people. In my third career of like developing leaders as an executive coach, as a leadership facilitator, author, and so on, and speaker. But what you said is absolutely true. Very often people that, and in that sense, anybody can be a leader because anybody can influence somebody around them. Somebody, it might be, when I joined HP, sure, I had a formal leader, a boss, but I had also people that I befriended that were longer there that became my mentors. And they played an important leadership role, even they were not my formal leader, but they made my life better there. They made me perform better. They made me learn faster, and so on. So what you said is absolutely true. If you have the opposite, the bullying type of behavior that puts people down, that makes them feel bad, that psychologically unsafe, if you want, then the person does not feel well, becomes sick actually, psychologically sick possibly, and it has tremendous effect, maybe on mental health in terms of depression. But we have a choice. If you're conscious about how emotions affect our behavior, our well-being, we can positively influence it. And which brings me actually to the 7 essential emotions for leading change. So each of these emotions drives a specific leadership behavior. So I'm going to share them in pairs, but they're built like a pyramid, Betsy. So from the ground up, so the first 3 emotions, they build the foundation of the pyramid. The first 3 are empathy, compassion, and interest. And empathy, especially emotional empathy, because there's different parts of empathy, more cognitive empathy and more emotional empathy, which makes you feel the feeling of another person, the suffering, and so on. Emotional empathy drives caring. And now caring about somebody is like worrying about, your children, for example, are they well? It's kind of you care about it, but not necessarily leads to action. But that's where compassion comes in. Compassion builds on empathy. It includes empathy, actually, in many of the definitions in psychology of compassion. But it also commits you. So when you empathize with the other person, you feel the other person is suffering, and maybe through empathy you find out what the other person needs in this moment, then compassion commits you to act on that need, to try to help that person, maybe stay with the person if they're suffering, if maybe they lost somebody. Let's say maybe your best friend lost their mother, and you learn about it, and empathy makes you care about it, but that does not necessarily help the person yet. You need to move to compassion to say, okay, what can I do? You call her or him and ask, what can I do? Can I cook a meal for you, or can I come over and hold you and stay with you overnight, and things like that. So that kind of compassion commits you to serve the needs to serve. So in leadership, talking about servant leadership, compassion as a leader commits you to serving, to become a servant leader. The third, interest, actually builds on those, but interest is important. It's an emotion that makes you want to understand something really deeply and in an ongoing base. So if, let's say, you talked about healthcare before you have been a nurse, let's say you're involved in the healthcare, to improve the healthcare system, whatever that system, locally or countrywide. But let's say you have the empathy that makes you care about it, and you have the compassion, you commit to serving. But if you don't understand it as a leader, you're not going to create a vision of a better future for that healthcare system, right? You're not going to be able to envision a better healthcare system because you need to really understand. You need to understand the needs of the people, healthcare needs, but you also need to understand the system and the solutions that serve those needs, being it the insurance space, being it the providers, the care providers and so on, or the hospitals, etc., pharmaceutical companies, etc. You need to understand that whole system, and that's where interest comes in. So a leader, the foundation is empathy, drives caring, compassion, drives the commitment to serving the needs of the people that's your stakeholders, and employees, partners, colleagues, etc., investors, and then the third one, interest, that drives an understanding of what are you trying to change here, and so that's the foundation. The next three, building on that, is optimism. So talking first about the emotions: optimism, inspiration, and trust. So optimism allows you to see to look into the future. Okay, so we have emotions that take us in the back and that pull us into the past, like resentment, for example, or nostalgia, and so on. Emotions that keep us in the past. If in such an emotion state or in such a mood, we cannot look. It's very hard to look into the future and see a better future. That's where optimism is a very future-oriented emotion that allows us to see a better future, a better vision, a better future, and we can articulate it then. So optimism drives visioning, but then let's say when you are able to envision and articulate a better future as a leader to your team, to your organization, to your community, and so on, or if you're in your family, you want to create change in your family, same thing. You say, this is what we're envisioning. Now you need to mobilize people. In order to mobilize people, you need to inspire them. You cannot tell people to move, because that does not drive a deep commitment. They need to feel it inside. They feel it in their heart that they're connected to that vision, that this is really an important vision that connects to their own higher aspirations. And that's one way to inspire, actually, at a deeper and a more sustained level. So inspiration, the emotion of inspiration, drives mobilization of people. Now, when you have mobilized people, they say, we are here, we want to help you, we are excited about the vision, then the leader needs to facilitate effective collaboration, right? To plan, to set goals, etc., and so on, to somehow execute towards that vision, and that takes coordination, collaboration, and the emotion, the emotion that fuels that behavior, collaboration, is trust. Without trust, there's no real collaboration going on. You mentioned trust earlier. Lack of trust in a leader will make people not follow that leader. They will not, if they don't trust them, if they say, you're not serious you're not honest about this vision, you're just telling us for working harder, but you don't mean it really, then if that trust doesn't exist, if the people that the leader wants to mobilize don't trust the leader, they're not going to follow the leader. We know that in the military, a lot of people, where it's a life and death situation, if the leader is not, or the commander, whatever, is not trusted by people, they're not going to follow him or her. Okay, and so that's the next three: optimism, inspiration, and trust. They drive envisioning a better future that meets the needs of the people that you're serving, and then mobilizes people, inspiration, and then trust, fueling collaboration, effective collaboration between the people. Now, let's say if you're on the way of, as an organization, as a team, no matter healthcare, whatever the environment is, executing towards that vision, you have your plans, you have your goals, people know that, they have the metrics, and you as a nurse, you had also metrics, what means how to, for serving, for taking care of people and so on. You were measured on certain things, and are people that go to the hospital, here they come in, are they going to come back, or are they healthy, staying at home, and so on. So I did a lot of coaching in hospital systems and healthcare systems and so on. So I know there's a lot of metrics involved in that and tracking that. But things go wrong, right? We know that this is a pandemic. A lot of businesses, they had their plan to execute, or families, or in private and personal life, they were working towards that year when the pandemic hit us, and suddenly everything comes to a halt. So we adversities, setbacks, roadblocks are a normal part of life. That is a given. And so we don't know when they come, and we don't know how they come. Sometimes we can predict them a little bit better, but very often not, right? Who could have predicted the pandemic? Who could have predicted, except the Secret Service, right? The war in the Ukraine that affected then the whole economy and the energy system, and the price of oil and the inflation and everything. It affects every part of life. Suddenly we are faced with that. Now a leader, from a leadership perspective, what a leader then needs is to be resilient. And from an emotional perspective, what supports resiliency is positive emotion. So I put a lump as the seventh one, positivity together as it's a palette of emotions. So this could range from anything from joy, from awe, from interest, some of them that I mentioned before, from inspiration, optimism, from amusement, humor, and so on plays big role. So a leader can cultivate resiliency or support resiliency in him or herself, or in the people he or she is leading. People look up to the leader in terms of cultivating these positive emotions. Okay, so when I went through the pandemic, I have my own business, I have family, I have things like to take care of, a lot of responsibility and so on. But when the pandemic hit, I also was at risk spiraling into negativity. And I consciously, coincidentally, I was just writing a chapter on resiliency and on positivity, how that fuels. And I was practicing very consciously some of these emotions, and it changed everything for me. My wife noticed. She said, wow, yesterday this didn't really help us to get through this pandemic, with the changes we have to make, but today you changed already. I said, yeah, I can't make that conscious decision that I want to cultivate more of these positive emotions in me and helping also others so that they become whoever looks to me for help. In coaching, I do executive coaching, right? So people come very often in a crisis to me, then I cannot pull them further down. I need to help to lift them up, so to help them to create an emotional shift that is more beneficial in that situation. So you can consciously cultivate these positive emotions, and you can find sources of positivity in order to do that. And that we can go deeper into that if you like, Betsy.
Wow, Reiner, I'm sitting here. I'm in New Jersey. And I almost have tears, like I'm getting choked up, because this is so powerful, what you just said. And the reason why I'm getting verklempt here is that I never saw myself as a leader, ever. And yet I was. And I never saw myself as that. And you're saying what a leader, the essentials, and I'm like, I do, how that didn't, you just made me realize it. And I never really, in a workplace, had a good mentor until I met Jeannie White, who's station manager at Passion World Talk Radio, and Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO. And I have to say that, talking about leadership, I never had a boss say to me, you can come to me with any problem, and mean it. And I didn't know anything, Reiner, about podcasting. I mean, I didn't even know what a podcast was. And they saw something in me, and they helped cultivate it. And they, took me under their wing. And it's so important, why I'm saying this, it's so important for anyone who's in, I say management, maybe there's another leadership, to take someone under their wing and, help them be successful. Because as Lillian Caldwell told me, she said, Betsy, when my hosts are successful, the station is successful. It's a group effort. And that's what it should be in a workplace environment, to cultivate that helping each other. And I don't know if you've encountered this or you've heard this, Reiner, but, I worked with women mostly because I worked in nursing, I worked in retail, I worked in preschool. And from what my experience was that women were threatened by other women. They didn't want someone to be successful or to show them how to do their job correctly. And I was like, well, why not? Why not have a successful team by helping each other? I think that's really important for leadership. And you're awesome. I mean, people need to contact you for. Do you do visual Zooms like for companies?
Yeah, I do a lot. I actually, during the pandemic, a lot of my work has transitioned to virtual. Now at the end, things have gotten a little bit better, so I do more face-to-face speaking workshops. Coaching is still, I would say, the majority is virtual, and it is very effective.
Yes.
Yeah, it is very effective. But what you described to me really moved me in terms of what you said. That people, that mindset or consciousness about that we are together much stronger, much better for everybody involved on that team or in that group than if we try to individually succeed and we see us as competitors, right? To say it's a little bit a mindset to say if the other person succeeds, I look bad, like it's kind of like it's like a win-lose view of the world, right? If you shift like what you described, it's like a win-win. If we as a team are successful, we all will win. And
right.
It's about consciousness. It's about being aware and learning that. And I think you have to have the experience in order to, like you had, to appreciate that. I had this throughout my life. I grew up on a small farm in West Germany. I grew up in a divided Germany, close to the border to East Germany. But I would say I grew up with this. We had also a cabinet. My father had a cabinet maker business. My grandfather had a mill business. And so we had these family businesses where we could only succeed and survive and thrive if everybody in the family worked together, and also the people that were employed. And they were also like family. They were treated like family, basically, and seen like family, because everybody never was the idea like saying I win at the cost of somebody else, because that wouldn't work in a family, in a family business.
Right.
Yes. Right. So when I went out into the world, into starting businesses and working globally, and I helped to start HP software business from startup to $4 billion business. I was involved for 24 years, in different leadership roles around the world and so on. And I always took what I learned as a child, where I grew up. As children, we worked, basically. I wouldn't consider it child labor, because it was just part of the culture, right? But and so I took that idea to the workplace, wherever the values of family business, to the large corporations. And so people that worked with me or for me as a leader, that's how I would like to treat them, as they were part of the family.
That's a great concept. And, Reiner, when I do my show and I interview people, sometimes I have to say what's on my heart. And, you talk about empathy and compassion. We need more of that in the work environment, especially when a worker is a caregiver and loses someone. They may not come back to work the same way. It's very difficult. It's very uncomfortable. In a workplace, I have found when you lose someone, like how you hold back your tears, and then people are looking at you, and then they're like probably judging you and talking about you. It's so difficult. There was a woman, I worked in a preschool, but it was associated with the gymnastics school, and one of the workers in the gymnastics lost her husband suddenly. And I went over to her, and I gave her a hug. And I said, I'm so sorry about your husband. And then, like a couple of months later, she showed me her husband's plaque. And she said, Betsy, I I got the plaque and I cried. I said, of course you cried, Beth. It's sad. And I said, I'm going to be, I would cry too. I just think that, and this might be totally off the course, but I think we need to develop a culture at work to show empathy to people when they need it. Maybe even offer counseling if you're in a situation, if your business can do that. But to be mindful of people, be caring of people, I just think it creates such a better workplace environment. And I think my pastor was right. Everything does rise and fall on leadership of how the person who's running the company, or even if it's a unit in the hospital, that nurse manager, that head nurse, how is she running, or he or she running that floor? Are you creating a positive environment? But I just felt led that I had to say that.
No,
Go ahead.
This fits right in, Betsy, and this is a wonderful example that you're describing. So in a workplace, and if we take this back to other generalize this into other workplaces, no matter where our people are suffering, life is happening, right? That's part, as I said, I talked about adversity, roadblocks, setbacks. That is true for anybody. That's true for the CEO of the company, for the board, like the people that sit very high up there, but also for anybody else that is part of that organization. And it is important when we are in a workplace, even no matter if we are in a formal leadership role or not, to check in on each other. It is very important. But checking in is like, a doctor, when you come into the doctor's office, you do your yearly physical and so on. They check the temperature, they check the pulse, they weigh you, the things like that.
Right.
Blood pressure. When I coach, or also as a leader, when I was like in formal leadership roles and so on in corporations, I check, and with coaching I do too, I check the emotional state somebody is in. It's for me, if I know how you feel, I can predict how you're going to behave. If I know how you can predict how you behave. If I know how you feel, this can be a window for me to understand what's going on and what your needs are, right?
Right.
Right. So, but if it requires to cultivate vulnerability too, right? So when I was leading I had a wide variety of leadership roles, from marketing to sales to strategist and so on for at HP. But so I would travel around the world to meet my team members. I would always take them out of the try to take them out of the office environment into a cafe or a place that people are more comfortable to share those things. So if I know how you feel, I know I can better predict how you behave, but I also can help you to get over it, whatever it is, right? Sometimes people are fine, and they are in a great state and enthusiastic, and they have the right emotional state, they're optimistic, they are inspired, they're resilient, a lot of positivity, but sometimes they're not. As a leader, I want to know that. But for a leader to know that, a leader needs also to be in touch with his or her own emotions. If a leader is not in touch with his or her own emotions, it's very hard to get in touch with somebody else's emotions. So it is an exercise of getting in touch with your own emotions through the right exercises and practices. So I put those very prescriptive things in the book. How do you do it now? How do you cultivate empathy, especially emotional empathy, that make you care about somebody you don't care right now, right? And if you care, then you take the next step and say, I care about your needs. And that I'm interested to understand them, so I cultivate interest to listen to you, to ask the right questions. I can then say, how do I shift now to compassion that commits me, that wants me to strongly meet those needs, right? So this foundation, if you have that foundation as a leader, a lot of things will go right. You will be somebody that creates a culture of great teamwork, It infects actually the higher. These emotions are built on purpose, like a pyramid on each other. Because if the people that you lead, that look up to you to lead, that you try to influence, if they see that you have empathy and that you care, that you have compassion and you are committed to really act on it, and that you really have interest in them, that builds trust. It also helps to inspire. It also helps to feel the person feel more optimistic, because they say, I can go to you because you have these feelings for me, but you also, when you interact with me, but you're also acting on it. Right? You have that integrity, that coherency, and so on. And so it is. It sounds simplistic, but I can tell you from my experience when I coach people in this domain, that not only they become better leaders. I want to give you an example that becomes really more tangible, but I don't want to use the name. I call him Jack here, but he was really suffering. I mean, he was a high-level executive, so second in command in that organization, and he worked his butt off, in quote. He tried to put out fires of his team and things that they missed maybe to cover and so on. But his boss, the CEO of the company, still complained, said, he's not doing enough, he's not a visionary leader, he's not things and so on. And he worked like 16, 18 hours a day and even on the weekend, and he said, I don't know what else to do. And so I asked him in our first session after I had met the CEO and what her concerns were, and we had a meeting together. That's always how it starts off as a three-way meeting, really to get a deeper understanding. I asked him, Jack, are you what are you feeling right now? He said, I don't know, I cannot describe. And then as he shared more of his cravings against his boss and so on, and said, are you in resentment? And which is an emotion, right? It's an emotion of victimhood. Somebody did something to us that was not fair, and the function of resentment is that we ruminate about that unfairness, that act of victimhood that we experienced, that somebody did to us. In this case, it was the boss. But that affected all parts of his life. He was struggling in his family life. He was struggling in his personal life. He was struggling in his identity. And he had been a successful leader for all of his life until then. He was kind of midlife in his late 40s, towards 50 in that range. And he had a lot of accomplishments. And so I said, so as he realized that, he said, yes, I'm in resentment, said, so now you know the emotion you are in. That emotion is going to pull you in the back. It will keep you in the back on all the unfairness that happened to you, and you never can be an optimistic leader. You cannot feel optimism, which doesn't allow you to be a visionary leader, right? So as he recognized that, and he had never worked with emotions before, he said, well, I'm an engineer by training, and anybody taught me this. And he said, I would like to learn in this domain. And I said, would you like to move out of resentment to more future-oriented emotions such as optimism? He said, how do I do this? And so we went through an exercise. In this case, it's a specific technique where you cannot have a straight line marching from resentment to optimism. It's not possible for some reason. It's too big a leap. You need to first accept what happened in the past and stop ruminating on it. Stop spending emotional energy on that thing that you resent. And he did it. He moved out of resentment by accepting, by deciding not to dwell on anymore. Not that he has to like it or fall in love with what's happening to him, but to say, I'm not going to spend any energy on it because I cannot change what happened to me. What is in the past is in the past. I cannot change it. It's the same as like grieving process, right? If somebody dies, we cannot bring the person back to life, right?
Right.
Or something. Mm-hmm. And so it's very similar, but the point is he moved to acceptance, and from acceptance he was able to move to optimism. Today, he has moved on a couple of times to, like, he's leading a large organization of thousands of people himself with a strong leadership team, believing in emotional competencies. I just recently trained his whole leadership team on these 7 essential emotions for leading positive change. And each of them had an area they benefited from learning emotionally that took them forward, that allowed them to take another leap as a leader.
Wow. Reiner, I'll tell you, you inspired me. You really have, talking to you today. I could talk to you. I could talk to you forever. I so enjoyed talking to you, Reiner Lomb, today. And folks, I'm going to have you on again, Reiner, because we didn't touch the surface. There's so much that to discuss with your book, and I really would love for you to come on again, because I think thank you. I think people really need to hear you. And I have to say this, folks. I really love having people on who are beautiful human beings and compassionate, and are resources to help me, live a better life. Reiner Lomb, you are a resource for people.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You are a resource. I'll tell you, folks, if you are in business, even if you're not in business, I would highly recommend buying and reading the book Aspire. I would definitely go on Reiner Lomb's website. You have to go on his website and read about Reiner, because it would have taken me a whole program just to go through his biography. It's so you're so wonderful and have so many accomplishments. And where can people buy your book, Reiner?
Yeah, so Aspire, 7 Essential Emotions for Leading Positive Change, no matter where you are, is available on Amazon, print, ebook, or audiobook. And that's the easiest way, no matter what country you are, where Amazon is selling, when Amazon on that particular Amazon domain. And that's what I would recommend. It's the easiest way to get the book. There's also a link on my website, which is reinerlomb.com. There's also a book page with my books, and then there's with articles and interviews and speeches and so on.
Yes, and I highly recommend listening to Reiner Lomb speaking on different interviews, because you get different information from Reiner, from people interview differently. And I just have to say that any company would highly benefit from having a Zoom meeting with you for hiring you to coach them. And if I was a CEO of a company, I would be running to your link to make an appointment, a consultation, because I think, especially in society today, we need to be kinder to each other. And, leadership, you're setting an example. Leaders set an example, whether you want to admit that or not. And really, if you're listening to this and you are in a leadership role, I would definitely highly recommend reading Aspire and contacting Reiner Lomb for his executive coaching. I really would. I hope people do, because if we could cultivate a positive work environment, and I don't mean like, mamby-pamby type of environment. I mean a good, strong environment with leaders who are helping and we're working together to be successful as a company or whatever you're in, business, small business, big business. I think it's just a beautiful concept. And so I thank you, Reiner, for writing your books and doing what you're doing to help people be better. You're
Betsy,
welcome.
I wanted for the listeners, it's very important to, because I have a lot of examples in the book of small and big changes, and in general in life, that's how life is. Everybody has a different appetite for change in terms of aspiration. Sometimes they wish just one relationship was better, no? Like one difficult relationship in their personal life or in their professional life. If you can change one person, influence in a positive way to change their behavior, to create a better future between you or around you or whatever, that is already leadership. And so any of these principles, the emotions we talked about, help you with, or going to help you with that. I've seen that again and again. So some people have a bigger appetite for change. They say, I want to, so then they just widen their circle of empathy and compassion and interest and optimism and inspiration and trust, etc. So just a question of how wide do you want your circle to be? But you're already a leader if you change one person.
Yes, that's how I feel about my show, Reiner. If one person listens and they decide to change and to help themselves and using resources, that's wonderful. And and we don't know the ripples that we create, and we might not ever know the ripples we create. But I think that I just really enjoyed speaking with you. You really you brightened my day. You inspired me today, Reiner. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you. That made my day too.
I needed that. People. When I started a support group, and I was thinking, I can't do a support group. I'm not a leader. And I was, leading. And I'd like to think of myself like trailblazing. My husband died, yet I still celebrate his life. I show pictures. And I see other people now doing the same thing. So if I inspire people to live a better life, to celebrate their loved ones, I'm happy.
Yeah, that is leadership. That is leadership because you inspire, Betsy. You inspire people. You mobilize them to do something that makes their life better, no? That allows them to create a better future. And then I call that leadership.
Oh, well, thank you, Reiner Lomb. I don't say your name right. I really enjoyed talking to you folks. I really thank you all for listening, and I hope you share the show to help other people, because that's why there is Chatting with Betsy, because I want to help other people. That's my mission. That's my vision. That's why there's Chatting with Betsy. I want people to know about resources I didn't know about, and I want everyone to live a better life. And I believe Reiner Lomb is one of those people that will help you live a better life. And I want to let the listeners know that all the information about Reiner Lomb will be in the blog that Jeannie White, who's station manager of Passion World Talk Radio, writes, and Jeannie produces the show. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio, who makes all this possible, who gives people a voice. And I'm very thankful and grateful to be a host on Passion World Talk Radio. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed, it's for free to subscribe to Chatting with Betsy on iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe and share, because when you share the show, no matter who the speaker is, you are helping people, and you are helping me fulfill my promise. And that's for Clint. And as people know, and if you don't know, Matt, my husband, is and always will be my inspiration, why I do what I do. And actually, for Clint, I didn't know I was a leader, folks, until I became a caregiver. Really, I did not know. So there's gifts. You have gifts that you may not even know that you have, and caregiving or some kind of unfortunate situation might bring out those gifts. And it's true. Sometimes adversity will bring out the best in you that you didn't know was there. And that might sound kind of crazy, but from where I stand in my situation, it was true. And that's what I have to say to you folks. And as you know, as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, to please be kind, shine your light bright, because if we all did that, it would be a much happier, brighter world, especially in a workplace. So Be blessed, everyone. Till we chat again, this is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Bye-bye now.